Thanks, man. It's now 7 o'clock, and I want to welcome everyone to the February 28th Common Council meeting. Public participation begins now. For those who don't know the rules, you'll be called up as your name is called. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And we'll begin with the first name. If you haven't signed up and want to speak still, everyone in the room will be heard, and everyone in the room calling remotely will be heard. All right, the first name I have is Mr. Frank Chase.
Frank Chase, 24 Roxbury Road, New Britain. Mayor Stewart's legislative priorities 2014 to 2022. You all have hard copies and email versions of the mayor's legislative priority memos with highlighted sections describing the Allen Street project and the Overlook McKinley project. Over these 9 years, the mayor and previous councils have failed to prioritize any money received from the state for the required Allen Street project upgrades. Over the years within these memos, the mayor has detailed for us the most pressing need, the storm sewer upgrades on Allen Street. For example, February 7th, 2015, the Allen Street project is critical to resolving chronic issues, including flooding due to storm sewer failures, sanitary sewer backups, and breaks due to insufficient capacity and the system's age and the general disrepair of the roadway and sidewalks themselves. As we all know, these failures cause severe, unhealthy storm sewer water flooding conditions on Allen Street and in our surrounding neighborhoods. The $56 million from the ARPA funds were allocated for many worthy, important projects. None of the $56 million was allocated for the most pressing need, the storm sewer upgrades for the Allen Street project. Once again, the Allen Street project was ignored, neglected, and mismanaged. The mayor had $56 million to use. She could have easily allocated the money for the required Allen Street project upgrades. She failed to do this, not $1. Erin had 56 million chances to improve upon the most pressing needs. She chose not to. It's unacceptable. From legislative priorities to ARPA funds, from budget relief tactics to the capital improvement project, from general fund money and unexplained surplus money in the public works account to grants, all of this screams out for more fiscal oversight. Where is the money? Or should we say, follow the money? Meanwhile, our critical neighborhoods continue to flood. As we have detailed for you, the evidence and facts are revealing. Our skepticism is justified based on Mayor Stewart's failed efforts thus far. Bottom line, the funding continues to be the obstacle in our path. The reality is simple. The city has funding and funding sources to complete the Allen Street project. Unfortunately, city officials have failed to obtain new funding and have prioritized available funds for other higher profile projects. After 30-plus years, the funding shell game continues while our quality of life suffers and our properties are at risk. We pay our taxes for the benefit of all residents. When we ask for our fair share to upgrade our vital Allen Street infrastructure systems, we are ignored by our city officials. We are demanding our fair share of state and city money, bonding, ARPA, and grant money, which must be allocated for the long overdue Allen Street upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Next up is Peg Messerschmidt. Name and address, Peg.
My name is Margaret Messerschmidt, and I live at 6 Hampton Street here in New Britain. And I'm here mainly to speak in support of Mr. Chase's remarks and to remind you all, every year we pay a little more for taxes. Every year we pay a little more for water and a little more for sewers that don't work. And I was checking out my bills in comparative years, a lot more for homeowners insurance. Not only that, but if I were to sell my house, could I ethically sell it without disclosing the problems? I could not. So you're leaving a lot of people stuck here, and I'm here to just be a thorn in your side until it gets done. And one more thing is I'd like to speak in support of the resolution number 8, which is for some environmental engineering assessment for the Allen Street project to get it started. So please vote in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Next speaker is Wanda Martinez. Name and address, 3 minutes, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, my name is Wanda Martinez. Thursday morning on January 25th was just like another day as my daily routine. I decided to pay a visit to my mom. I went to her home and I knocked on her door. There was no answer. I called her, no cell phone answer. It went right to voicemail. Suddenly, a sense of dread concern came over me. Where could my mom be? I was pacing the foyer at her apartment complex on 50 Bassett Street, Schoolhouse 1 apartments. There's Schoolhouse 1 and 2 apartments. Well, I came across one of her friends down in the building, and they told me my mom was struck by a car. I frantically raced to the hospital, to the emergency room, where I was met with the police officer. He walked me to the emergency room to see if I didn't, as I walked into the emergency room to see her, I didn't know what to expect. My mind was racing, filled with all horrible thoughts of what might be. But by the grace of God, her miraculous intervention, her injuries were not life-threatening. She was pretty banged up. She had bruises on her face, a deep laceration on her forehead, a broken wrist due to require surgery. But she was conscious, and she was alive. Our family has been blessed, and we were spared the grief of having our dear mom tragically struck and killed by a passing automobile. Sadly, that was not the case for the family of a dear friend of ours, Brenda Kachui, and 2 others who were struck and killed in the very intersection recent years. The grieving families are still waiting for a solution. Sadly, the pleas and the concerns of the tenants at the apartment complex are asking for something to be done to avoid future tragedies that have fallen on deaf ears. I am here on the behalf of I'm come to you on the behalf of asking for help for finding a solution for the dangerous intersection and avoiding future tragedies. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Could you just state your address?
It's on 50 Bassett Street. Well, it's my mom's address, 50 Bassett Street in New Britain. Where the accident happened was on South Main Street, right by the Dunkin' Donuts. On the November 2nd, Brenda Cachuti died there. It's been all over the news and stuff, so, yeah.
Thank you for
So-
sharing that.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mike. Mike?
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to speak about the proposed resolutions tonight for
Mike, just your full name and address, if you have it.
yeah, Mike Ryan and 5 Talcott Forest Road. Yeah, Farmington. Thank you. So this ordinance resolution for getting rid of tickets, $99 tickets for people loitering. The language changes it to like, nothing in this article shall be construed to prohibit individuals to sit, stand, eat, consume non-alcoholic beverages, sleep, converse, pray, and/or read in public places, parks, and sidewalks. The only thing with this is like when you say, oh, they're not loitering as long as they're consuming non-alcoholic beverages. A lot of homeless people do consume non-alcoholic beverages, so it doesn't take that into an account. You know, people do it in their own space. They do it in their living rooms. In bars, it's legal. but it kind of still does target them. And many people are under the impression that alcohol keeps you warm in the winter, when it really doesn't. The next thing is with the panhandling. It was noted that the ticket would go down from $99 to $10 for a first offense, $15 for a second offense, and $20 for additional offenses. The point of us requesting that there be no charges at all is because homeless people don't have funds, period. So, you know, these tickets for panhandling, like, it wasn't to lower the fees, it was to get rid of them completely. Because not only do they harm homeless people, but they also don't prevent them from doing the thing. We know people with like 20, 22 tickets. So, yeah, we would just like to say, like, it should be just no amount be charged when people get these, you know, people shouldn't be ticketed for this stuff, period. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody calling in remotely? Okay. Going to make the call 3 times. Does anybody else who hasn't spoken want to come up? Come on up. Yeah.
I'm
Hi.
Carmen Chan. I live at 1582 Corbin Ave.
I'm Maria Chan. I live at 1576 Corbin Ave.
I've been a resident of New Britain for longer than that, but I've lived in that address for 20 years. As you guys may know, there's been very severe accidents in that between Queen Street and Mitchell Street, where poles have been knocked down three times, once last year, twice this year. The last one, which was about 2 weeks ago, knocked down 3 poles right in front of our properties. We have small children. Our houses are very close to the street. This is becoming a problem. People are speeding in this road. Now that they fixed the poles, there's no light, so the road is darker. Where we are, there's like a slant. So when people speed, it's like a little turn there. I asked the mayor once to put a speedometer. They put it for a while, and they took it off. People are speeding in broad daylight, like almost like running the sidewalks. In the 20 years that I've lived there, I've never seen such severe reckless driving in that area. We're asking to something be done, like a slow down sign. We need more lighting. We need a mirror between the Queen Street intersection. There's also been accidents in there too. I don't know. I know this is costing the city tons of money to fix these poles. We didn't have power for like almost a day. It affected side streets.
So this is my sister. We live next door. We have small children, 4 boys that love to play outside. Unfortunately, they're well aware that they're not allowed to play in our front yard for this reason, for the fact that people are reckless during the day, during the night. We've had our property damaged. We've had loss of wages because of this. I work from home. The power went out 2 weeks ago. I was not able to work. There's so many reasons that this is just becoming, it's no longer an if something bad is going to happen. It's a something bad is happening, and we want to prevent worse. We want to prevent casualties on our street. We don't want to be explaining that to our small children. And I am a nurse, and unfortunately, I have been taking care of these people that are crashing in front of my house now for over a year. I really am begging you guys to do something. Signage at minimum, bare minimum. Barricades. There needs to be something that says, that alerts people. Just the other day, we were waiting at the bus stop, and our nephew let the basketball roll out into the street. Do you think that person stopped? No, they rolled right over that basketball, never tried to put on their brakes. People are driving down this road unaware of the dangers, and unfortunately, one of these times, somebody's going to get hurt, and I'm here to beg you to please avoid that from happening. Of course, this is happening on other streets, but guys, our entire family lives on this block. We need your help, and we're begging you to do something today. So, thank you.
Thank you both. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody else? Anybody else? Hearing none. Public participation is declared over. Now I want to invite our alderpersons to make any comments on what they've heard from the public. Alderwoman Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say to Mrs. Martinez, I think she's in the back, I would like to thank you for reaching out to me. I put the petition in, so hopefully we can talk to the police chief, he's right there, so we could help you out at least with something. Okay? Thank you.
Alderman Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to address the issue of traffic in our city. Something is going on where drivers are not heeding any warnings or anything. And, I mean, the least we can do is try and figure that out. And thank you.
Alderwoman Scott. I don't know who had their hands up first, but Alderwoman Scott.
So I wanted to, of course, Frank and Peggy, thanks for coming. Keep coming until we get this settled. And of course, I agree with resolution number 8. I'm getting Allen Street started. Wanda, I'm so sorry that happened to your mom. And ironically, I just left School Street. I met with a lady that lives there, and she was just talking to me about all of the accidents. And I'm glad Iris put the petition in. So we will get started on that. A lot of the residents are very concerned about that, and rightfully so. It's a lot of elderly people that live there and people with disabilities, and they don't have enough time to cross the street without getting run over. So it's, it's really, really scary. So just wanted to let you know, it's ironic that I was just talking about that before I came here. I think that's it. And Michael, thank you for coming and representing the community on behalf of the resolution for panhandling. So thank you.
Alderwoman Sabeja.
First, I just want to say Matt was a little shy in saying that he did put a petition in for the 2 ladies who came from the Queen Street area. There is a petition on tonight that Alderman Malinowski put in to have a traffic study and talk about reducing speeds and all of that. So he was a little modest in not saying that he put his name to something to try and help out in that endeavor. But I was rising to speak to Mr. Chase, who sends emails, and I try to respond periodically when I think I have something to add to the conversation. And I've told you that I am in constant contact with Director Moriarty to find out any updates going on with the Allen Street project. McKinley is being taken care of, and it'll be a shovel in the ground this spring. So in terms of that issue and sewers overflowing from storm drainage, that's being taken care of on McKinley. And this particular council that's seated has already taken 2 actions. Well, I'm assuming we're taking one tonight, but doing the engaging an engineer that we did when we were first elected back in November, and then on tonight's agenda, we have the meter flowing. And hopefully you can help us get permission from the residents to allow folks in to do the evaluation when we have to test with the metering and seeing how the water flows. So this council is hearing you. Obviously, because you have a history with this issue, it's not fast enough for you, but I just want to say there are action steps being taken on the Allen Street issue as you continuously bring to us. And I'm not complaining that you do that, I just want to state for the record that the councils, and that's fine, that is absolutely fine. I just wanted to make sure for the public record to state that this council is well aware of what's happening on Allen Street, and we are taking slow but steady steps to try and address what's going on there. I'm not going to say too much about the 2 resolutions that are on tonight's agenda about loitering and panhandling, because my assumption is those resolutions will get referred to committee, the committees will do something with it, and then it'll come back to the council for final disposition. I do think it would be interesting, somebody had a petition, I think, I'm not sure if it's still on there, about getting numbers from the police department on exactly how many tickets have been handed out for loitering or panhandling. I don't put in petitions, I call the department heads directly, so I reached out to the chief's office, to the chief specifically, and asked him, I'd like to measure how big of a a problem this is, because the gentleman from Farmington comes regularly to call us out on criminalizing homelessness, which we are not doing. And I just want to say for the record, and this is not to start a debate, but everyone can be a criminal. We can be criminals, and also people who may be homeless may do something of a criminal nature, and the police department has to be able to respond to it, whether it's one of us doing something or somebody who's part of the unhoused population. If it rises to a criminal nature, the police department has to be able to engage. I don't know what the answer is. I look forward to the conversation in committee. I'm assuming, I don't know if it's going to AFL or coming to you. I'm looking at you, but I'm not really sure which committee it's going to get referred to. But we will be talking about it in committee. I do think for the chairs of either committee that it goes to, it'd be interesting to know, what do our surrounding neighbors do with loitering and panhandling? Like, for instance, what does Farmington do with what I'm sure is an overwhelming crisis in their community for panhandling and loitering? What are some of the things that their city does? So I think for our committee chairs, I'd recommend that we take a look at what our surrounding communities do to tackle the problem as well, because it is not just a New Britain problem, or is it? We need to find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman, for your advice. Any other persons? Alderman Simpson.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to thank everybody who came out to public participation. I know you guys have lives that you're taking away to be here tonight. For our friends who have flooding issues, keep being, really for everybody, keep being a thorn in our sides. We are elected officials. Please hold us accountable. We signed up for this work. For Ms. Martinez, I am very sorry that you and your family had to go through that. Speeding is not just a New Britain issue, it's anywhere with wide roads. And as having a background in urbanism, I can tell you that the safety of our pedestrians, no matter how much planning we do, is often left in the hands of drivers. So if you have a car, slow down. The speed limit all across the city is 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. Somebody please correct me if that's wrong. And I myself have had 2 incidents where I've had a near miss, where drivers are failing to yield the right of way to pedestrians. And I had a constituent call me this week and say, hey, driver took out a bunch of street signs and we need to do something about that. I do believe the policy resolution to this are speed bumps or speed humps, because drivers are recklessly driving. People are demonstrating that they fundamentally do not care, and I don't think that there's a level of planning we can do to curb those beliefs. And so the important thing is to end those behaviors, and unfortunately, it seems that speed bumps are the way to do that. I see them work in Hartford and the North End all the time. I see them work in, I believe, New Haven and other cities. And so I hear you. It's a struggle for New Britain, it's a struggle for anywhere with a road, really. For our friends regarding the 99 tickets and panhandling, I do agree with you that it's not necessarily the numbers which the fines are, it's that the numbers exist at all. And in terms of criminalizing the homeless population, it's not just a New Britain thing. This is something we see all across the country, particularly in cities with plans for redevelopment, which bring housing units which aren't typically affordable for the residents who have been there and who keep the community regarded as worth living in. And I agree, we should look at surrounding towns. What does Avon do? What does Southington or Farmington or Bristol or our neighbors or any of the other 168 other municipalities in the city do regarding this? And again, safety of pedestrians is left in the hands of drivers. And for our friends on Corbin Ave, I used to play on Corbin Ave. I used to play in Mount Pleasant. I have family who live a couple doors down from you to this day. So the struggle, I feel you guys. Keep being a thorn in our sides, keep saying your piece, and I promise we will at least try to get something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Simpson. Alderman Santiago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Start off with Queen Street. That's around my neighborhood. Actually, the power went out of my house as soon as that, when I reached out to the chief, and he had sent me the report about what happened, that situation there. Actually, prior to that, when I was councilman 2 years prior, I had put a petition in for that section because of a constituent that lived on Sterling Street was complaining, because the stop sign, you have that stop sign there, and then after that one is that curve goes over, and we were asking for something to, deter the speeding on that side. And my concerns was exactly if somebody was gonna get hit, or a kid get hurt, or, properties get damaged, and actually that corner one where that nice, guess that West Indian kind of look to it, he had his whole front end, the front side got taken out by a car, from speeding. Even myself, coming down Corbin Avenue, I had two individuals in the back were speeding right behind each other. The guy came out and pulled a gun out, the other guy. And I was like, I'm gonna have to witness the murder here. This is what we're getting out of the streets right now. Just over in Corbin Heights, where I put a petition also there for the speeding going on. Again, they want to avoid speed humps. At this point in time, I'm sorry to say it, I'm sorry with the Public Works, but this is what's been deterring in Hartford. This, like you said, New Haven. We even have Simsbury that has it. We have it in Avon. We have it in all other cities, but here, and it's ridiculous because now we had almost 5 people that got hit by cars. I think 2 tragedies already from that, and also multiples that weren't, they didn't report it and stuff. This is getting ridiculous. It's getting to the point where us as residents, we can't go back and forth. I mean, if I could speak to you right after we're done with this, I would happily speak. And I'm glad that Matt did follow up on and put the petition in. Again, we put petitions in. It's up to the committees that reviews them, that gives the recommendations, and we pretty much can't do anything about that. But I am following up about because there's a policy that was passed on last year, I think it was. Am I correct about the speed humps not being part of the thing? We need to relook that, because again, at this point in time, there's too many casualties, too many people are getting hit, too many properties are getting damaged. And yes, we know the speeding is one of the issues, but if you slow it down, there's no speeding, right? Again, we have signs, we had lights. I think we've done so many things so far that has not deterred these individuals to stop or slow down or any of those issues, because some of them don't care. And then also another thing is lighting. I put a petition in because of the lighting. If you look at they changed all these lights, they go directly down. They don't broadcast like I remember back in the days when the streets with lights are on, the lights were on. Now it's like, I myself, individuals walking down Pershing, and I barely see them. And you can't blame them for wearing their colored clothes, because I saw in the report, Chief, we all know about, blaming the person for having dark colors on. It's not fair for that person because, again, they're wearing clothes. They're wearing whatever they have that moment. So you can't tell them they have to wear reflectors. As soon as 6 o'clock comes, it's dark. So I did a petition in for the lights to see if they could reevaluate those lights again, because, again, we need something different than that all over the city. That being said, and then the floods. Even when I was councilman, we were looking at in other areas, and I'm glad that this council, we're actually been moving on it. They've been working on it, and diligently, the two petitions are ready. I know it's not as fast as you want, because again, the rain comes faster than these petitions are going through, or this work is coming through, but this is a process, and we're really, really working on it. And I appreciate you guys come every week, every day that we have a meeting, come please. This way we know that people are still, because again, that's what happens. Sometimes nobody come, they put it to the side because you're not here. Exactly. So now that you're here, you've been here since we've been councilmen, every week, every 2 weeks. And I appreciate your due diligence. I appreciate your script. And we'll have to do something about it. Thank you so much, and I appreciate everybody coming in. CCSU.
Thank you, Alderman Santiago. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. I'd just like to put a cap on things with regard to the speeding and traffic conditions. Alderwoman Barboza has brought that to committee in terms of speed humps or bumps, and as well as that committee will be looking at traffic calming policies. We've looked at the city of Norwalk and other things. So I hope the council will aggressively look at this and come up with some sustaining solutions to the conditions on Queen Street and your mom getting run over. So I hope that happens. And you might want to add something to this if you want. Okay. And as to the stormwater and sewer conditions in Mr. Chase's neighborhood, my neighborhood. Frank, I've looked through city documents, audits over the last 10 years, and your report to us, those conditions are described in those audits as a critical need. The need is to accelerate, whether it's bonding or what the city can find, working with state and federal partners to expedite a critical situation. I was at the Environment Committee today listening to the Commissioner of DEEP talking about storms getting worse, climate conditions getting worse, so these things are going to repeat themselves. So I think everybody's on the same page, as Alderwoman Saavedra mentioned. So let's try and accelerate the process. Absolutely, Alderman Russell.
In conclusion.
And in conclusion.
John, do you want to just introduce these students?
Oh, we can welcome them, yeah. Alderman Russell. Oh, you are? Oh, I thought you were. I just want to conclude public participation by welcoming journalism students from Central Connecticut State University, Professor Ferris's class. I'm almost willing to bet they're the first reporters who've been here in several years. No. Alderman Smedley and Alderman Russell spoke to their class, and then Alderman Santiago and I spoke either before or after that, and we look forward to you quoting us correctly and filing good stories. Meeting will begin shortly. Of course, you'll be all right. Yeah, their name, yeah.
If all alderpersons could start making their way to their seats, we'll get started momentarily.
Oh, we know that part.
Is this your water?
I think this is, and it was left there.
Oh,
So, you want one?
No.
no, I'm good. I have my Pellegrino.
Actually, I like those orange ones. Actually, the red blood orange.
Oh yeah, the blood orange ones. Those are the ones that are like a little sweet, right? Yeah. This one, I got these ones from Costco. It doesn't have sweetness to it. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our friends from CCSU. Go Blue Devils. I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the New Britain Common Council. The date's February 28th, 2024. The time is 7:45 p.m. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderpersons McNamara. Here. Smedley. Present. Sanchez. Here. Beloin Saavedra. Here. Simpson.
Present.
Russell. Here. Barbosa. Present. Hargraves. Here. McAdam. Here. Gibson. Here. Scott. Here. Connors. Here. Malinowski. Here. Pabon. Santiago.
Present.
14 present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Can we all please rise for the invocation? It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. O God, our Heavenly Father, we pray for the end of a mild winter and ask that you bless our gardens, orchards, and fields with your bounty. Keep the rains to a minimum and our bodies strong so the hard outside work can be completed. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We can have a seat. I believe, I'm going to start off with that. Alderwoman Scott, did you want to start off with a point of personal privilege this evening?
Yes, thank you, Aaron Stewart. I just wanted to say peace and love and give blessings and acknowledge the Dominican Republican Independence Day, which was yesterday. I just wanted to give peace and love to all of our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, other residents that live here in New Britain that are from the Dominican Republic, and just acknowledge their day. And also to let everybody know that they do celebrate this throughout the month of February, so I just thought it was important to just acknowledge this day. New Britain is extremely diverse, and just want to be welcoming of everyone that lives here. So that's all I wanted to say. Just a happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Alderwoman Scott. All right, so we're going to start off this evening. We have a special guest here from the Capital Region Council of Governments. His name is Matt Hart. He's the executive director. Matt is, I serve as the chair of the Capital Region Council of Governments Board. We represent 38 towns and about 1 million residents in the state of Connecticut. But Matt is going on a tour to all 38 towns because it's important that all of us know what CROG does, why it's important for us, and how they can be resourceful for us. I promise I'm not going to say anything more, and I'm going to leave it all up to you because that's not my job, that's yours. Matt, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. Let me make sure my PowerPoint is working. I don't know if it takes a moment or two.
It might.
So as the mayor said, I'm trying to get out to each of our 38 communities to talk a little bit about the work we do as a Council of Governments and talk about some of the projects that are specific to New Britain. And happy to take any questions and suggestions you have as well. Just waiting for this to boot up. I'm not much of a comedian, so I don't have any jokes to fill the intro there. All right, looks like we're good to go.
I don't have any snazzy hold music or anything.
Did have a great time at your ball, though, Mayor.
Thank you for contributing.
All right, here we go. So again, going to talk a little bit about our role, the services we provide to our 38 members, the benefits for your city in particular, and take any questions and suggestions you might have. And I'm going to try to move through this as expeditiously as I can. So first of all, what are regional councils of government? Sometimes people get them confused with counties. We're not a county. Connecticut, as you may know, we're one of 2 states in the country that does not have county government. But we do have COGs. And we provide a geographic framework for municipalities to get together and try to address key challenges and opportunities facing the region. And we offer our members a variety of programs and services as well. We can also function as what's called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. And in that role, we administer federal transportation funding, which I'll talk about. And then the newest designation we received, we are now the region's Economic Development District, and in that role, we'll be able to administer federal monies for economic development initiatives. There are 9 councils of governments in the state. You see them on the map up here, and the capital region up in the center. So a little bit about CROG. We're the largest of the 9 COGs. As the mayor said, we serve 38 municipalities, a residential population of almost 1 million residents, geographic region over 1,000 square miles. So we're very good size by Connecticut standards. Here's our mission statement. I'm not going to read it word for word, but it talks about how we lead as a catalyst to work to enhance quality of life, vibrancy, and vitality here in our region, and that we provide our members with a set of services. We're also a strong advocate for our region. So next I want to talk a little bit about the governance of our organization. So very pleased to have the mayor as the chair of our 41-member policy board. I think it's your second term in that role, Mayor?
Yeah.
Yep, starting off in 21. And then Mr. Weber serves as our alternate. The policy board is similar to the council in many ways. The board makes all of our big policy decisions, adopts the budget, approves our major initiatives, etc. Our transportation committee is very important because they advise the council in their role as the MPO on the transportation side. And Mr. Trottier serves as your representative there. Our regional planning commission, Mr. Benjamin, is your current representative. Municipal services, this is the committee that looks at CROG's programs and services, helps vet new ideas. Mr. Weber serves as your representative there. And then last but certainly not least, our Capital Region Emergency Planning Council, where both your police chief and fire chief serve as the city's members. We have 4 major departments, and I'll spend a moment or two talking about each one, try to address some of the issues that were raised tonight earlier in public comment. So first, in the area of municipal services, we offer a variety of programs and services to our members. One of the services we've offered the longest is this purchasing council, the Capital Region Purchasing Council. And actually, over 100 of the state's municipalities are members here. And in that role, we do the bidding for you for both supplies and commodities, and municipalities can purchase from a vendor from our list. We also have this Easy IQC construction program, and this is designed to assist with capital projects. I'm going to talk later on about your new Public Works garage, which is the largest single Easy IQC project we've had to date. This department also staffs a couple key committees. The Human Services Coordinating Council, I heard some discussion earlier about panhandling, homelessness, and that certainly is impacting our region overall. It's not an issue that New Britain is dealing with alone. So this council is attempting to come up with remedies here. I was previously the town manager in West Hartford. Something West Hartford started more recently is embedding a social worker in the police department who could go out with the police to make contact with these individuals to help them, provide them with city services. We've got a data portal, and then we engage in legislative advocacy, really focused on our state legislature. We've spent a lot of time this past year focusing on federal funding opportunities, the bipartisan infrastructure law in particular. I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. We're working in the waste management area. We've got a small regional solid waste authority comprised of 14 members. So we're trying to develop some good sustainable solutions for our region. So that's municipal services. Let me now spend a moment or two on regional planning and development. So this group staffs our Regional Planning Commission. We hold a forum for town planners and economic development professionals across our region. We promote transit-oriented development. New Britain is a leader here in our region, in our state, and in the country with the great work you've done in the area of TOD. And we're looking to promote that across our region. We offer a brownfields remediation program, working closely with the state. We engage in economic development, particularly on the funding side. Natural hazards mitigation planning, that gets at stormwater management. We're trying to address stormwater challenges as a region. You know, it's really affecting the communities adjacent to Hartford as well as the capital city and communities like New Britain as well. So we want to get our arms around it and see what types of long-term financing solutions we can come up with to help fund the infrastructure that will be needed to solve the problem. Some of the initiatives we have underway, I'll just highlight a couple of them. The East Coast Greenway Gap Closure Study. What's that all about? We're working to link together the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail in western Connecticut with the Airline Trail in eastern Connecticut. There's a 12-mile gap. There's a 12-mile gap in our region. And we're working to connect the trail from Simsbury through Bloomfield, through North Hartford, across the bridge into East Hartford. When that's done, we're going to have over 200 miles, roughly 200 miles of connected trail in our state. We're going to be embarking upon a regional housing strategy in the near future, and I already touched on the stormwater study. Moving into transportation planning, this is our largest single department. This is where most of the funding is. We administer a variety of federal and state transportation funds, the most popular probably being the local Transportation Capital Improvement Program grant. I'm going to touch on some of the projects you have here in a couple of minutes. Heard a lot of conversation earlier this evening about traffic safety. So it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic here in our region, here in our state, and across the country. Much of it is attributable to a decline in driver behavior. You know, and enforcement is part of the key, but there's only so much the police can do. A lot of the solutions will involve engineering solutions, separated infrastructure. Hopefully as cars and technology get smarter as well, we'll see some improvements there. But at CROG, we are kicking off a Vision Zero task force, and we will hold our first meeting next week. I'll be running that group, and you will be represented by Rob Trottier. And we'll certainly keep you informed on our work, as we realize it's a huge issue. A couple of initiatives we have underway here. We will be, warehousing is a significant issue for many towns in our region. I don't know if it's as significant here. We'll be providing our towns with a set of best practices there. In the area of public safety and homeland security, we staff the Capital Region Police Chiefs Association, as well as that Emergency Planning Council. We administer a variety of federal and state grants to benefit public safety, emergency management, and public health, primarily in the area of training, exercises, and equipment. So talking a little bit about some of the benefits for the city in particular. New Britain has one of the best track records in the region in terms of obtaining grants sponsored and administered by our agency. Here are 3 lots of grants you've received in recent years, approximately $8.7 million. You see Allen Street at $1.6 million, East Main at almost $3.7 million, and then Downtown 8 at almost $3.5 million. So really nice job in that regard. We've got another round of funding that just closed today or earlier this week, and you did submit a grant for that round. Some highlights from the last fiscal year. I don't want to spend too much time on these. It just talks about how we're administering grants on behalf of our region, bringing federal and state dollars in to benefit our region. We conduct various planning studies to benefit our region. That purchasing coalition saved our members $1.83 million last year. Here's our social media campaign. So I talked earlier about our Easy IQC construction program. That's where we're able to negotiate very competitive rates for smaller capital projects. And your new Public Works garage is the largest single project under this program to date. Here are some photos, some recent photos of the facility under construction. Mayor, I think it would be great to host a regional event here once it's complete. No,
Happy
maybe,
to do it.
maybe later this spring.
That'd be lovely.
No, let me explain. So the Easy IQC program, that's a program where we negotiate the various rates for types of construction work. So by utilizing the program, you're able to complete the project at a lower cost. I apologize, I should have explained that a little better. And then I wanted to close with this. This is a grant we were awarded, CROG applied for. This is a RAISE grant that stands for Rebuilding American Infrastructure Sustainably with Equity. And this is a $16.4 million grant that is designed to close the remaining gaps in the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail in the town of Plainville, and then have a connection over to the city and your CT Fast Track station downtown. So this is a neat initiative where we're working in close collaboration with city staff and making very good progress. I think your elements are on the far right, on my right, and I think you're very close to completing final design, and then you'll be able to go into construction next fiscal year. The state elements of the project on the left-hand side are a year or two behind you. But within 3 to 4 years' time, we should have a completed project here with some great connections.
That's what we're calling the Beeline Trail. You see us.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so that completes my presentation. I know I moved through that rather quickly in the interest of time. Happy to take any questions, Mayor, you may have, or your colleagues on the council.
Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
On your page, regional planning and development. On your slide, regional, I have to stand up. Thank you. I just got back from Puerto Rico, 4 o'clock this morning, so I had to change my flip-flops in for boots and socks. Your slide, regional planning and development, the programs and services and the initiatives. Can you talk a little bit about the natural hazard mitigation planning, which you said would tackle the stormwater runoff, since it's a hot button issue for the council? Can you talk about how regional planning might help with that, and how far off into the future is that?
I'd be very happy to. So the state requires all the regions to periodically prepare, I think it's on a 5-year cycle, a natural hazards mitigation plan. We're presently updating ours for the region now. And that looks at the whole host of natural hazards that communities might face. On the stormwater side, we did receive notice that we will be receiving a state grant, a Climate Resilience Fund grant for $250,000 to begin to look at stormwater management as a region. So one of the things we're going to take a close look at as part of this study is the viability of a regional stormwater authority, or even a regional stormwater utility that could be used to help fund the infrastructure that will be needed to address the problem, as well as overseeing the projects themselves. I think in many communities, again, I was in West Hartford relatively recently, a big part of the solution is going to be separating stormwater from the sanitary sewer. And in West Hartford alone, there are hundreds of homes with that challenge, because 80 years ago, it was best practice to connect your stormwater line into the sanitary sewer. The EPA outlawed that in the 70s and 80s, but there are still hundreds, if not thousands, of those connections remaining throughout our region. So what happens is, now that we have more intense weather, our built environment has increased over time. We've got much more pavement than we had in years past. The stormwater overruns the sanitary sewer. So that's one of the most significant problems that our region is facing. So I think we're going to be working on this for a long, long time.
I
But,
would imagine so, and I was
yes.
just thinking about it in terms of New Britain and the millions of dollars that it will cost for us to just handle our own issues as a city, how many more millions it would cost if you were trying to address this as an entire region. I was just curious if any individual municipal grants would be coming out of this development.
Well, I think we'll look at both approaches there. If we can tackle it as a region and pull our resources together, could we come up with more effective financing means? That's one of the things we want to take a look at. We were very instrumental in solving the crumbling foundations crisis in the eastern part of our region. And the state, working with CROG, we formed this captive insurance company. We've remediated almost 900 homes already. Is that an option we could look to replicate for stormwater in other parts of our region? So again, I think there'll be great value in trying to pull our resources, because it's not just the city of New Britain that's dealing with this.
Thank you so much, and I think that's an important point to make, too, that it's not isolated here in the city of New Britain. It's a major issue with old systems and old ways of thinking when those were built. If I may, Mayor, can I ask one more question? On that same page, but flipping to initiatives, you talked about regional housing strategy.
Yes.
Which I'm very interested in, because people, when out-of-town people, will come to New Britain and talk about what low-income or affordable housing should look like in our community specifically. But I'm interested in you talking about regional housing as a strategy actually for the region. So I'm curious what that might look like, considering you have, Connecticut is spattered with an urban district surrounded by suburban districts. So how does an entity like CROG work with our suburban neighbors to actually address issues of regional housing? That's got to be tough.
It will be. We're really excited about this project, though, because we think it's one of the single most important issues we're facing. So I think we're going to look at both supply and demand, as well as a variety of solutions. We would be concerned about imposing one-size-fits-all models on our municipalities. Municipalities have varying degrees of infrastructure, zoning is different, et cetera. But we want to really look at opportunities there. Middle housing is often mentioned. We talk about multifamily construction in a large scale, and I know New Britain has done a tremendous job over the last decade in that regard in terms of attracting new investment. But we have 2 families and 3 families and 4 families throughout our region that, if properly renovated and rehabilitated, could be one viable source to help meet that demand. So we're going to be looking at a variety of solutions there.
I look forward to progress on that particular issue. I am a big believer in regional partners, just coming from the city perspective. My own personal perspective as a lifelong resident of New Britain, I've never seen the suburbs be willing to help what is typically considered city issues. So I will be very interested to see, since you are a regional guy, how you're able to bring varying partners who don't deal with the same kind of issues the city does to the table to help alleviate all the stress being on an urban area and have the suburban step up finally to the plate, especially in the area of housing.
Sure. One more positive note I would add in that regard. I think the issue has really grabbed everybody's consciousness. And we've got organizations like CBIA, the Connecticut Business and Industry Alliance, where housing is at the very top of their legislative priorities. We did not see that in years past.
I appreciate that. Thank you for entertaining my questions.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any other alderperson have any questions? Alderman McNamara.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, New Britain is one of 2 communities, I think, with a storm water authority.
Yes.
And I don't think that's borne any fruit yet, but it's supposed to produce revenue for our city to address stormwater. Is there a community or communities who, along those lines, you'd give a green thumb award to on green infrastructure, rain gardens, permeable surfaces? What communities in our area are doing a lot about that?
Well, thank you, Alderman. So, New Britain, you're at the forefront with the city of New London. You're one of just 2 communities in the state that have created your own local stormwater utility. I think we've got to look outside of Connecticut. And that's what we've done in our early review, because these regional authorities are more common in other parts of the country. Parts of Pennsylvania we've looked at in the greater Philadelphia area. Also, Portland, Maine has had a successful utility for the past decade or so. There are some communities in the greater Boston area as well. Some of the early adopters are coastal communities, which have had this issue and then some. So we're looking outside of Connecticut, I think, for best practices. And you mentioned green solutions. Yes, there's been a lot of progress there in terms of the infrastructure below ground. We're still going to need some of that traditional gray infrastructure, undoubtedly, but it's interesting to see what's been coming along using plastics, permeable plastics, the rain gardens you mentioned. I think there are a whole variety of exciting techniques we'll look to tap into. Pun intended.
Any other alderperson have any questions? Alderman Simpson.
Thank you. And I just want to express my my support for separating the sewer versus essentially a storm runoff. It's probably one of the biggest public health challenges that our generation is facing, and it's tied into housing, right? When foundations are crumbling because of erosion or other just structural issues, flooding impacts housing. I know we have people here who have had, 1.5 foot of water sitting in their basement. So I've got a few questions here. First, does New Britain have a climate resiliency plan as part of CROG, or Mayor, if you can answer just in general?
So New Britain is an active participant in that regional hazards mitigation plan that I talked about. So all 38 towns have an annex or an appendix that is specific to them. But we feel as though, because stormwater doesn't necessarily respect municipal boundaries, we're better off having a regional plan with specific elements for each community.
Good. Let's see. Oh, you mentioned a meeting happening sometime soon. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vision Zero?
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero. Is this a public meeting? Can we as city leaders attend this, or?
It will be at our office next Friday, and it's either I can't remember the time exactly, but I'll follow up with the mayor and Mr. Weber. So Vision Zero, if you're not familiar with the term, that is, the goal is to reduce dramatically or eliminate altogether serious traffic-related accidents and fatalities.
Good.
That's what the term refers to.
And more of a technical question. Does the regionalization plan include something regarding permeable surfaces, particularly for roads? Because, if water can't move through our roads, it's going to go over our lawns and get into people's basements, things like that.
For stormwater management?
Any part of the plan?
Yes. Yes. That's considered to be a best practice, certainly. But the stormwater management plan, I want to make sure I'm clear on that. We have not engaged, we have not prepared that plan yet, that regional strategy. We're waiting on the state grant to be awarded. The natural hazards mitigation plan, which we've had in place for several years, that we're presently updated. So 2 separate plans.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, Alderman Simpson. At some point, the City of New Britain may be putting together our own local Vision Zero committee, piggybacking off of the regional one, but looking more locally, putting together our own because it's fairly new, passed in the state legislature last year, really driven by West Hartford and a lot of the work that they did with their initial Vision Zero committee. It's now going to become a requirement for a lot of federal grants moving forward, especially with the Safe Streets for All grant, which we're a recipient of. If you want to qualify for getting future funds, you have to have this committee established and show that work. And pretty much what that does is similar to the work that we currently do, looking at our most troublesome intersections, locally owned, but when you have the partnership with the state, and then we can look at state-owned intersections too, and looking at how to reduce the amount of accidents and incidents that we have in those areas, targeting those specific intersections. So while we're starting to participate with CROG's Vision Zero, I presume in the future we're going to have our own local one too. Matt, Mr. Hart, thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much,
Good to
Mayor. If
see
I
you.
could, just as I close out, I want to give a shout out to Laura Rosenbluth one of my colleagues at CROG. She's a city resident. She's watching online, and she does a tremendous job for us. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much, Mayor.
She does live in
We're
town.
thrilled to have you on the board as our chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We'll move on into minutes and amendments to the agenda, but Alderman Santiago, I don't see any. No minutes, no amendments. We'll move right along into petitions this evening, and Mr. Clerk, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Your Honor, we have 6. The first one is from Alderwoman McAdam for the appropriate departments to provide detailed information on the amount of tickets distributed and arrests made relating to general penalty fines, loitering, and panhandling within the last 3 years.
We'll send that to the police department.
Okay. Number 2 is from Alderman Santiago for the appropriate departments to provide a blight annual report to the Common Council as required by Section 7-46C of the Code of Ordinances.
I'm going to send this to the mayor's office.
Okay. Number 3 is from Alderwoman Sanchez for the appropriate departments to install a crosswalk at the light at 146 South Main Street.
Police Commission.
Number 4 is from Alderman Malinowski for the appropriate departments to conduct a traffic study on Corbin Avenue in the vicinity of Queen Street to determine appropriate methods to reduce speed and decrease traffic
We'll
accidents.
send that to the Police Commission as well.
Number 5 from Alderman Simpson for the appropriate departments to install neighborhood watch, we call the police signs in the vicinity of 133 Shuttle Meadow Avenue.
Police Commission.
Okay, and the last one is from Alderwoman Scott for the appropriate departments to install public trash receptacles on Oak Street, Allen Street, Tremont Street, Lawler Street, Clark Street, and Glen Street.
To the Public Works Department.
And that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move along to the consent agenda. Alderman Santiago.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to accept consent agenda item A, B, C, and E. C, D, and E.
Okay. I have a second by Alderman Simpson. Any questions or comments? Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderpersons McNamara.
Aye.
Smedley.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Beloin Saavedra.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Russell. Barbosa. Hargraves. McAdam. Gibson. Scott. Connors.
Yes.
Malinowski. Santiago.
Yes.
14-0, Your Honor.
Motion carries. Move on to resolutions this evening. Item number 1, Alderman Simpson.
One moment. Thank you. I rise to make a motion to accept and adopt item number 1.
Second. I have a second by Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
Beautiful. This is essentially a zoning change that is essential for the Mount Pleasant public housing redevelopment. It offers to my understanding, a floating zone which allows flexibilities for the development to take place. And it is used across, not this particular zoning change, but generally something like this is used to help with development for large plots of land where there will be sort of multiple activities. It just provides the city leeway to effectively do the plan to redevelop our public housing project here.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any questions or comments? We have our team here, and if anybody's got anything for them. Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
I missed the last meeting when the Mount Pleasant project was here, and I'm so supportive of it, and this is very specific, so perhaps somebody could come up to the microphone and just talk a little bit about the importance of this zone change, and also, I'm curious, I talked to Jack Benjamin a little bit. I sent you the study that I'm referring to, because we only have 13 square miles, and we're talking about how we can increase housing opportunities in the city of New Britain. Changing zones, going from low density to moderate density, is there a possibility to do that beyond what we're doing here for the Mount Pleasant project in other areas of New Britain?
Yes, good evening, councilors. Jeff Cormier, city planner for the record. I'm here with Ken Borison, the architect from Borison Architects, who was the designer of the master plan that's before you. So just to touch base a little bit about what Alderman Simpson said, the SRD is a floating zone that's overlaid at the time of adoption. It's a master plan driven process that requires the master plan upon that zone being dropped onto the zoning map. And not only does it allow a little bit flexibility for larger parcels, campus style, because zoning typically is generally for a single parcel with a principal building, has different setbacks, different requirements that are generally not geared to a large parcel that has multiple ingresses and egresses, multiple buildings. It's not really designed to facilitate that type of redevelopment. So really, what this does, again, it's a master plan driven process that allows predictability. It gives the city predictability on what's going to be put in place. So that master plan essentially shows you what's going to be built, where in another case, if you might just approve a zone change, that zone can allow for many different types of permitted uses, none of which you know you're actually going to get. So in this case, you're presented with an SRD, Special Residential Design District, that has certain criteria and standards for landscaping, parking, open space, building materials and design, the quality building that you want to see there. And it really requires a lot of work up front to show what this master plan, what this site is going to look like. So that's what you have before you tonight. And really, it doesn't necessarily, so what was on the zoning map before was A1 and A2, which are multifamily districts, garden apartment and otherwise. They do allow a similar level of density, but what this really does, it allows the site to be completely redeveloped into something that otherwise would not be able to under the current zoning regulations. In terms of your other question about just generally looking at some of our districts, which we have, and we've gently increased density where it makes sense with certain districts. We've looked at, I think T, we increased to 3-family. When you look at, on the basis of several different areas of the city having, non-conforming parcels all over the place, we're really looking at bringing some of those into compliance and bringing them into more of a situation that makes sense for all those properties that's compliant with the plan of conservation and development. So I don't know if that speaks to your question about, so a lot of the process of what we go through with our general looking at district by district, what makes sense, is there the opportunity to increase density or change uses that are, again, consistent with what the POCD calls for in the policy areas.
So may I continue? I just got the feeling, and Jack's not here tonight, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I got the feeling through our correspondence that the city was already looking at or already have changed some of the zoning regulations that would allow for some alternative ways of increasing the housing stock in New Britain. So
Absolutely.
I guess I was just trying to kind of flush that out as this council grapples with all kinds of issues related around housing and homelessness.
Yeah, and that really goes back to what we started about 2 years ago, I think back in mid-2022, with going district by district and looking at, modernizing our zoning standards, uses, things of that nature, because, the zoning ordinances have a comprehensive revision since 1967. So a lot of things we're looking at are really, bringing those standards to modern practices in terms of the types of housing, the density that could actually make sense in the city. So we started that about 2 years ago, just going slowly district by district, looking at it throughout the city and how one relates to another, how those districts actually function as well. And also ensuring that they still meet all of their other requirements such as parking and landscaping and open space.
So may I?
I'll give the plug there. There's still more changes to come that Jeff is still working on. It started 2 years ago, but it's still continuing.
Well,
It's a lot of
wonderful.
work, but-
I look forward to that, and maybe I'll share with you what I shared with Jack, and it was what was happening in Seattle, and the way that they were tackling housing and talking about some of the state laws that are restrictive because you need 2 areas of egress, whereas if you go to Europe and Canada, they only need 1 stairwell, and the different things that can change in the way we regulate and have codes around housing that makes it more flexible and easier to establish density that makes sense and it works. It was a very interesting read. So I was just wondering, with any of the zoning changes that you've already put forward, and as you're looking to the future, do you see that it will work? Will it actually stimulate increased housing in the city?
Yeah, I think we see that. And again, when we're talking about zoning regulations, we're talking about uses and dimensional standards. So some of the things you talked about means of egress, that's really under the building code.
Yes.
I believe the state has the state building
Yeah,
code, which
absolutely.
everyone adheres to.
Yes.
So that might be a separate conversation.
Okay.
But in terms of zoning, those are definitely things we're looking at that we can work on with dimensional standards and uses. And that's really where you're coming into, minimum lot size per dwelling unit. How many dwelling units can you fit on a certain size lot? Increasing the number of units you can fit. And we are seeing that. I mean, we have a number of people where you have, we get calls frequently about you might have 2.5-story house where it's a huge attic, where you have the opportunity to have the parking on site, maintain the parking that can still meet the requirement, and can do a conversion. And I think some of the things that where you have the zoning, where is the use permitted, can the dimensional standards be met, but then also you're getting into some of those building code things, which can be costly to people. But that might be a separate conversation than what we can do under zoning.
And if I may, Your Honor, one last point. And thank you, yes, I think it is both going with state law and building codes and looking at what's happening in other places, but also the zoning. I was really excited when Mr. Benjamin said that some of the zoning was changing and that was going to allow for increased housing opportunities. I'm making this point for two reasons. One, again, because I'm fully supportive of Mount Pleasant and what we're actually going to be voting on here. But two, because of all the criticism that the city has been getting because we have a diversity in housing that's offered throughout the city and what's going on. And it's like, you don't have to have one at the exclusion of the other. So we can have affordable housing and we could have market rate housing, but we can also be tackling low-income housing and just increasing housing availability throughout the city. So I just really, through you, wanted to make the point that all those balls can be in the air simultaneously, not leaving anybody out of the picture when we talk about housing here in the city of New Britain.
That's correct. I would also go further and say that New Britain is very unique in the sense that we allow various different types of housing. You get to the CBD and some of our really dense districts where you can have, a very high density all the way to our S1, S2, S3, which are lower density single-family units. So just within the city, we have a vast range of different housing types that is offered and frankly can be supported.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was just being informed that since I didn't watch the meeting, I can't vote on it. So let me just say that I'm very supportive of it, but I'm going to have to recuse myself because I didn't watch the video, which I was unaware that I was required to do. Thank you for answering my questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Justin, for reminding me that I must recuse myself.
You can
With
have
that,
it
I will
if you
sit
have it
down.
for zoning. If you didn't listen to the tapes or if you didn't watch the video, you cannot vote.
For the record, who do you want to have that as second?
Oh, yes, because I seconded the
Oh,
motion.
Smedley.
Thank you.
You learn something new every day.
Any other questions or comments on this for Mr. Cormier? Alderman Simpson.
Thank you. So I just have a question about one of the buildings that I believe are included in this. I checked the map. It seems that the building the Center of Excellence is in, I believe the address is 57 Fern Street. This item does not specify Fern Street in it, so I was just wondering if the Center of Excellence is included in the zoning change from.
Oh, I believe it was. I believe it was bounded by Broad Street to the north, which included that parcel.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Sorry, Sharon. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And for the record, Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra recuses herself from the vote. Motion carries. Alderman Santiago, resolution number 2 tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to accept and adopt item number 2.
Second by Alderwoman Sanchez.
This will allow the fire department to run a contract with the leaders under fire to provide optimizing human performance classes, 2022 assistance for firefighters grant, professional development training, EMW-2022-FG-09322 training contract. And I urge adoption.
Thank you very much, Alderman. This is part of our large grant that we received that we'll be spending down on piece by piece for fire training. Any questions or comments? Chief Ortiz is here. Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
This I can vote on. But actually, it's not a question. I'm just taking this as an opportunity to say to the chief that you've had a tough couple of months here in the city of New Britain, and the council, our hearts go out to the fire department. We understand that a lot of what you responded to isn't the norm when you respond to a fire. So just on behalf of all of the council, I want to thank you and all the members of the fire department for what you do to try and keep the city safe. Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to say that.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Connors, item number 3.
Good evening, Your Honor. I rise to support item number 3 on the agenda.
I have a second by Alderman Santiago.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a contract with First Due to provide New Britain Fire Department records management system. This resolution would upgrade the records management system and enter a new contract with First Due on July 1st, 2024. This would allow the New Britain Fire Department to meet new regulations and requirements, and the annual cost for this would be $29,050, budgeted in the maintenance contracts, and I urge adoption.
Thank you very much, Alderman Connors. Any questions or comments? Nice thing about this is it's going to integrate very nicely with our new CAD system, and that will be incredibly helpful. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman McNamara, item 4.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to accept and adopt item number 4.
Second by Alderwoman Saavedra.
The fire marshal is a beneficiary of a $500 award from Connecticut Fair Plan, and the funds will be used to purchase a digital camera for investigations and inspection activities. I move adoption.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Santiago, item number 5. Surprise.
Make a motion to accept and adopt item number 5.
Seconded by Alderman Malinowski.
Don't jump on this one. This is for the Public Works, correct, or Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Recs.
Yep.
We'll go contract with Diversity Construction Group LLC for $2,698,000 for the installation of a reception pavilion at Stanley Golf Course. Nice and easy. And I urge adoption.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Barbieri is here, Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. I believe there's going to be questions.
On the motion,
Yes.
through you or her? Hi, Mr. Barbieri.
Hello, good evening.
I read the resolution about building a pavilion at Stanley, and I thought it needed more specificity as to the source of funds. It referred to several account numbers, and maybe if I'm here a few years, I'll know what those are. But if you could specify the exact source of funds to build this project.
Sure. So we have several different funding sources here, as you can see in the resolution. There's 2 separate bond issues. The first bond was done in March of '22. That was $1 million. The second bond was done in April 26th meeting of the council in 2023. That was $500,000. We were also fortunate enough to get a $500,000 gift from the A.W. Stanley Trust. So that was another $500,000 specific to the project, and the balance will come from the Stanley Golf Course capital projects accounts.
All right, and is there a timetable you have for completion of the project, or do you know that yet?
We want to start in March, and we would like to be done by the end of July, September timeframe, end of August, September timeframe.
All right, thanks for that good information.
Sure.
Alderman Santiago.
Thank you, Your Honor, through you. Eric Barbieri, what would this pavilion do for the golf course?
Yeah, thank you. So I don't just speak on behalf of myself, but the thousands of residents that use the golf course for golf, for the golf range, for the restaurant. It's a very exciting time for the golf course and this particular project, because it really is the last piece of the golf course really putting itself at another level and setting itself up for decades of success. Currently, we have different levels of funding at the golf course, different ways in which we get funding at the golf course. One of those is golf tournaments. Right now, unfortunately, and by the way, we like golf tournaments because whether it rains or pours or snows, that tournament's coming. So that's a good revenue source for the golf course to have. Right now, we're turning away larger tournaments, which is more money, not just more money for the golf course, but more money for the golf pro, who's also a contractor on behalf of the city, and the restaurateur. So it's a win-win-win for all involved at the golf course. We also will be making more money for the golf course via a revision to the contract with the Calvaneses in the back nine, because this is going to add business for them. So because it's going to add business for them, they also should share in some of that, the costs and the revenue for the city to take on this cost. So the golf course will be making more money via that as well. But I also think it's important to note that, the A.W. Stanley Trust, and by the way, all these funding sources are very unique to this project. So the bonding, the gift, which is $500,000, which, it's specific to this project, it would go away if we don't do the project. And obviously, the golf course is special revenue funding, so it has to be spent at the golf course. So all of those things come to a golf course that is one of the great gateways to the city on that side of town. And also, like I mentioned, used by thousands of people. Very popular. One of the questions I had, I was actually at Board of Finance, and they were sharing some of their supports for it, but they said, is your parking lot big enough? Because it sounds like you're going to be pretty successful over there. I think we're going to become a destination for all of Central Connecticut, if not beyond, because of a project like this. And it's exciting from the perspective of that, no matter what happens in the future, golf is at an all-time high right now. If it happens to dwindle a little bit, we have as many funding sources as possible for this golf course to be able to draw off of, including the recently designed golf range, which in the last calendar year brought in approximately $550,000 just in the golf range because of the improvements we made. If we continue to put money into the golf course, we will continue to be able to make revenue with the golf course, and this is another way in which we can do that. The Parks and Recreation Commission voted in favor of this project as well. In fact, they're very excited about it. So they wanted to share their support with it. And so there's a lot of different win-win-wins here. One of the other things I should mention is we do have an ADA accessibility issue at the golf course and the restaurant. Because it's a historic building and the nature of the hills that are there, it's difficult for some. And we've come up with a fix in that we will transport people to the restaurant as needed. However, this new reception pavilion will be fully handicap accessible. We're working on the traffic pattern for people to be able to actually drive around next to the building, drop off at this reception pavilion, and then pull away again. So that's a win-win there. And where we have current parking next to the building where the staff for the back nine park now, that will become handicap parking. So that area there will also be safer and better for our ADA members of the community. So again, for me, this is a very exciting project, but it's also a huge exciting project, which should be for the city, because remember, the golf course is the city. It's the city's golf course, and we want to set it up for success as best we can with this very specific funding that we have.
Thank you. Alderman Smedley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Mr. Barbieri. Two questions for you. One, besides turning large-scale events away, because I do understand there are a few that are hosted, how is that crowd managed, and what do you do for a setup for them without a pavilion like this currently?
So unfortunately, the building that we have is approximately 120 in that reception area. So some tournaments will try to make it work, and in speaking with the restaurateur, they don't like it. It's not a good scenario. You can try to put people everywhere, but you're disconnected from the event. It's not well done. We actually have some tournaments that love the golf course, but then drive away to a different facility to go have their reception. That's ridiculous. The back nine doesn't enjoy that concept, nor should they. So this will help curb those two issues that we have in speed bumps and trying to make it a win-win for everybody.
And I was specifically targeting the use of the driving range. I know there have been some large-scale events that have caused you to have to shut down the driving range in order to accommodate space for food service and a tent large enough to host the after-dinner and events for some large
Right.
scale.
And like I said, we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars at the range. To shut the range down at any given time for any amount is just throwing revenue away.
And
it would not make any sense.
You talk about the golf course making revenue. How would the golf course debt that is incurred, because it is a business obviously, so there's profit and debt incorporated in the business, how would that debt be covered if there was no revenue generated by these events for the golf course? The golf course,
via all those different aspects of the revenue of the golf course is now in the black. Since its inception to date budgeting is now in the black. So we will have money available in the golf course special revenue fund to be able to pay for things that happen at the golf course now in the future.
What used to
Any
happen
capital
when you
projects.
didn't have that?
Yeah,
sorry?
what would happen if that didn't occur? There's expenses, we have to maintain the lawn.
Oh, the city would have to
General
pay for
fund
those
would be
things,
it.
correct. Yeah, the city is on, and those have happened in the past when we haven't had those the capital project dollars.
Thank you, I support the resolution. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Alderwoman Scott?
I just want to clarify, I was concerned about where the source of the money was coming from, but that's not going to take away from like any education, because it's all money that's from trust and grants, basically, is that?
Correct.
I just want to be
Yeah,
clear.
this money is specific to the golf course. It has to be used there. That's correct.
Okay, and it's going to improve like the revenue that's coming in, because it is kind of low, from my understanding. It's low at this time, the revenue that's coming into the,
No, the revenue at the golf course has never been higher. We're doing
it's
very well at the golf
improving
course,
now.
but again,
Okay.
but we need to set it up now while it's doing well for the future, decades to come, as I mentioned.
Okay.
So yes, it's doing well, but this is the final piece that will increase revenue in another fashion to put the golf course in good stead, so we don't have to do what Alderman Smedley's talking about in the golf
Okay.
course, having to come in out of general fund dollars to fix things.
and is there a way to bring our young people into golf through this?
Yeah, we do have golf
Just love
lessons. In
to-
fact, I was just talking about this the other day, and we were also talking with our after-school programs and camps folks to have them come do field trips to the range to be able to
Nice.
get introduced to the game of golf. And I can tell you that it is taking off. The youth game across the country, but also in the city, for the first time, I'm getting calls at the Parks and Recs department, what is going on for golf lessons at the golf course? We want to get involved. So it is very popular and it's going up. And the golf teams at the high school have never been bigger as well, just so you know.
Thank you, I love to hear that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Gibson?
Thank you, Mr. Barberry, for that presentation. Just want to say that being a program director at the Boys and Girls Club for many years, we were part of the First Tee program, and many of our youth in the inner city that had never been introduced to that sport enjoyed it and can continue now as adults. So I welcome and I support this solution.
It's called the First Tee of Connecticut, so it's a nonprofit that takes kids from urban areas and brings them onto the golf course, gives them clubs, and helps teach them how to golf, and we have great partnerships with them at Stanley Golf Course, so it's very nice to see.
I just want to.
Yeah. I just want to end on one thing, so I think everybody should know this. Can the city of New Britain ever sell the golf course?
No, never. The land is granted in perpetuity as part of our awesome park system.
As part of which deed?
A.W. Stanley.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. 'Cause
Alex
it is a
W.
fun
Stanley.
fact. We can never, we own it, we can never sell it. We've been approached multiple times with people who want to purchase the golf course. We can't. It is deeded to the city for this specific purpose from Alex W. Stanley himself. FYI.
For golf links, actually.
For golf.
And specifically in
Yes,
the deed
for
for
golf.
golf links, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Barbieri? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Alderwoman McAdam, item number 6.
I would like to make a motion to accept item number 6, refer to the consolidated subcommittee.
I have a second from Alderman Santiago.
This is for the, specifically the loitering and trespassing, to change the wording to add in that they would be allowed to drink non-alcoholic beverages, sit, stand, eat, converse, pray, read, etc. in places of public, that are public parks and sidewalks. And I make a motion to refer.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any questions or comments on the referral to consolidated? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? For the record, Alderman Smedley. Motion carries. Alderwoman McAdam, number 7.
This is, I make a motion to accept item number 7, refer to the consolidated committee.
Do I have a second? Alderman Santiago.
This is a motion to change the fine from $99 to 10, sorry, I lost train of thought, 10, 15, and $20, dollars, and I make a motion to refer to consolidated.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Alderwoman Scott?
I just want to say, I think that this is great to help out the unhomed here in New Britain, and I just wanted to encourage the public, since this is getting referred to committee, to please participate and watch if you're online, you can participate online, or come here for that meeting, because that's where the conversation's going to take place about this. So I just wanted to encourage the public to attend that. And that's going to be, I believe, I hope I'm not incorrect, March 7th. So it'll be on the calendar and the city website, or you can always contact me and I can get you the information. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the referral? Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
I'm going to support the referral, but that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily support what comes out of the committee, and I will go to the committee to hear this. I just want to say, back when I was on the Board of Education, I was the victim of panhandling, and I'm going to say I was the victim because the person actually put his hands on me and pushed me against the car as he was trying to get money from me. So to say that these issues cannot turn serious at times is a falsehood. To say that panhandling has no impact on the person that they're panhandling to is also false. So I think we have to be very careful when we're talking about this and we run the narrative about criminalizing homelessness, that we talk really seriously about the issues, specific issues, and the effect on the people, and I'm going to say on the businesses in the area. So I'm not a business, but I was a person walking out of a public meeting that I volunteer my time to go to, and I was, in terms, I could have called and said assaulted. But somebody else intervened and redirected the gentleman who was very aggressive. So I just want to make sure that when we're talking about this, we don't talk about the evil police department that is issuing warnings or citations to poor people that are just there shaking a can and asking for some money. That's not always what panhandling looks like. And I think we have to be very careful and very circumspect when we discuss the various issues relating to loitering and to panhandling and how that impacts the rest of the community and the downtown business. But I am supporting the referral because I do want to hear the discussion, but it's not just a one-sided issue. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other alderperson wish to comment on the referral? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. For the record, Alderman Smedley, motion carries. And Alderman McNamara, item number 8 this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to accept and adopt number 8.
I have a second from Alderman Malinowski.
This is a $59,000 engineering contract, part 2 of the work on Allen Street. We approved $119,000 in engineering work last November, and this is to do a survey in the area impacted by the Allen Street problem, and I urge adoption.
Thank you, Alderman McNamara. Are there any questions or comments related to this item? I believe Mr. Moriarty is here. If anyone has any questions on what the work entails.
Actually, if I could ask Mark to come up.
Mr. Moriarty, please.
Hi, Mark.
How you doing?
I put in a plug for your sewer authority earlier.
I heard.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I've been attending the Public Works Commission meetings, and they've been helpful, and learned that the Overlook project may get off the ground in the summer. Is that still on course?
We'll be bidding it within the next probably 6 weeks and should start by late spring, early summer.
Okay. And with this new resolution for the engineering, that other engineering project, the specs for the Allen Street updated information will be available in the fall.
I'd say right now, our schedule is for late fall, early winter. So like December for completion and design.
And I know you had a meeting with residents, and you mentioned something about having a meeting with residents in the area. Is that feasible?
Yeah, we're talking about having, especially with the resolution that's before you. So with this one, I'll just talk to this one just briefly so you guys have an idea. So we do this process, the same process. We've done it recently with our I&I project, the New Britain Flush program. And this one, the best way I think for you to think of it is if you think about some of the residents that have come here and said they've had backups in some of their houses. So, and I know Matt Hart was talking about this a little bit. our sewer and our storm lines are separated, but you get individual properties that have either the roof drains or foundation drains that could be improperly tied in. Like their roof drains or foundation could be tied into the sewer line, or vice versa. You have some properties that actually have sewer lines tied into storm lines. So what's important for us to do with this project while we're replacing the storm lines and the sewer lines is to make sure from each individual property that either their storm lines or their sewer lines are connected to the right utilities in the road, so we can prevent backups and also prevent clean water from going into the sewer lines.
So we had that problem on Allen Street a few weeks ago, a sewer line.
Well, I mean, we have to get in there, but it sure seems like some of the lines are tied into the wrong utility for some of the backups that people are describing. You could also have other issues like this, like toilets put in a basement where they probably shouldn't have been put in ever, but we're specifically looking just at making sure that this, either a storm line or a sanitary line from an individual property is tied into the right utility in the road.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Moriarty on this item? Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Made by Alderman Santiago, seconded by Alderman Gibson. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye. We are adjourned. The time is 8:49 p.m. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the State of the City address.